Playing it safe feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels like the smart thing to do. That's why so many people choose it without ever questioning the long-term cost. Safety promises stability, predictability, and protection from embarrassment or loss. There's a trade-off most people ignore. Playing it safe also guarantees average results, not sometimes, always. You cannot live cautiously and expect extraordinary outcomes at the same time. Safe choices are designed to minimize downside, not maximize upside. When you prioritize security above all else, you automatically limit your potential. You choose paths that are already proven, crowded, and competitive. You follow rules designed for the majority, not the exceptional. This keeps you within a narrow range of outcomes. You may avoid dramatic failures, but you also eliminate the possibility of major wins. The problem is that average results rarely satisfy people long term. At first, safety feels comforting. Bills are paid. Life is predictable. There's no immediate crisis. But over time, a quiet frustration sets in. You realize you're capable of more, yet your life doesn't reflect it. The gap between potential and reality grows wider, and that gap becomes resentment toward circumstances, toward others, sometimes toward yourself. Playing it safe also slows personal development. Growth requires exposure to challenge, risk, and uncertainty. When you avoid these, you deprive yourself of the experiences that build confidence, resilience, and skill. You don't learn how to recover from setbacks because you rarely face them. You don't develop adaptability because your environment stays the same. Over time, safety makes you fragile, not strong. There's also an illusion that safe paths are guaranteed. They're not. Jobs disappear, industries change, skills become obsolete. People who relied on security often find themselves unprepared when conditions shift. The difference is that those who took risks are used to adapting. They've already faced uncertainty and learned how to move through it. Those who avoided risk struggle when it arrives unexpectedly. Average results are often disguised as success because they meet basic expectations. Society praises stability and predictability. You're told you're doing well as long as nothing is wrong, but success without growth eventually feels empty. Humans are wired to progress. When you stop pushing forward, dissatisfaction grows. Even if your life looks fine on paper, playing it safe also trains your decision-making in the wrong direction. You begin to ask, what's the least risky option, instead of what's the most rewarding option. Over time, this mindset becomes automatic. You start declining opportunities before fully exploring them. You talk yourself out of bold moves with logical-sounding reasons. The habit of safety becomes self-reinforcing. Another cost of safety is mistiming. Opportunities often require fast, decisive action. Hesitation kills momentum. People who play it safe wait for confirmation that never comes. By the time they feel comfortable, the opportunity is gone or the reward has shrunk. The biggest gains usually go to those who act early, not those who wait for certainty. Average results also shape identity. When you repeatedly choose safety, you start seeing yourself as someone who avoids risk. That identity influences future decisions. You start considering bold options because they don't align with how you see yourself. Breaking out of that pattern becomes harder the longer you stay in it. It's important to understand that risk doesn't mean recklessness. Playing it safe isn't the opposite of being smart. Smart risk involves preparation, learning, and calculated action. The difference is that smart risk accepts uncertainty instead of trying to eliminate it. Playing it safe tries to eliminate uncertainty entirely, which is impossible in a changing world. The people who achieve more than average are not luckier or more talented in most cases. They are simply willing to accept discomfort and uncertainty in exchange for higher upside. They choose growth over security. They understand that short-term instability can create long-term freedom. If you want average results, safety is a perfectly logical choice. But if you want more control, more impact, more fulfillment, you cannot keep choosing the safest option. Playing it safe may protect you from failure today, but it quietly locks you into a life that never reaches its potential. The cost of safety isn't immediate pain, it's long-term regret. And by the time that regret becomes obvious, years have already passed. Fear is not an obstacle placed in your path to stop you. It is the price you pay to step into a bigger life. Most people misunderstand fear and treat it as a warning sign that says, turn back. In reality, fear shows up precisely when you are about to expand beyond what you know. It appears when you are leaving familiar ground and entering territory that demands more from you. That's why fear is unavoidable if you want growth. If you wait for fear to disappear before acting, you will wait forever. Fear does not vanish with thinking, planning, or hoping. It fades only through action. The people who build extraordinary lives are not immune to fear. They simply refuse to negotiate with it. They understand that fear is part of the process, not a reason to quit. Fear exists because uncertainty exists. A bigger life means bigger stakes, more responsibility, more exposure, and more consequences. Your mind reacts to that by trying to protect you. It highlights what could go wrong, magnifies risks, and exaggerates potential failure. This is not weakness, it's biology. The mistake is letting this protective response control your decisions. When you feel fear, it usually means something meaningful is at stake. Comfort rarely produces fear. Routine rarely triggers anxiety. Fear shows up when the outcome matters, and the result isn't guaranteed. That's why fear is a reliable signal that you're moving in the right direction. If nothing you're doing scares you, you're likely operating far below your potential. Avoiding fear feels smart in the short term. You stay safe. You avoid embarrassment. You protect your ego. But every time you avoid fear, you reinforce a dangerous habit. You teach yourself that discomfort should be avoided. Over time, this shrinks your tolerance for challenge. What once felt manageable starts to feel overwhelming. Fear grows when you run from it. Facing fear has the opposite effect. Each time you act despite fear, you weaken its grip. You prove to yourself that fear does not equal danger. You learn that discomfort is survivable. Confidence is built through this process, not by positive thinking, but by evidence gathered through action. Fear also sharpens focus. When you care deeply about an outcome, your attention increases. You prepare more seriously. You take responsibility for your actions. Fear, when managed, becomes fuel. It pushes you to refine your approach instead of staying casual. The key is not eliminating fear, but using it productively. A bigger life demands bigger decisions. Bigger decisions carry emotional weight. This is where most people stall. They stay stuck in analysis, waiting for certainty. But certainty is not a requirement for progress. Courage is. Those who succeed make decisions with incomplete information and trust themselves to adapt. Fear also reveals values. You don't fear what you don't care about. The intensity of fear often matches the importance of the goal. That's why running from fear often means running from what matters most. The cost of avoidance is not just missed opportunity, but a slow erosion of self-respect. The people you admire didn't wait to feel ready. They moved while doubt was present. They accepted fear as part of the deal. Over time, their relationship with fear changed. It stopped being a threat and became a familiar companion. Fear never disappeared, but it lost authority. A bigger life doesn't come from eliminating fear. It comes from expanding your capacity to act while fear exists. This capacity grows with exposure. The more often you step into uncertainty, the more comfortable you become operating inside it. What once felt terrifying becomes manageable. What once felt impossible becomes routine. If fear is present in your life right now, it may not be a signal to stop. It may be a sign that you are standing at the edge of growth. The question is not how to get rid of fear, but whether you're willing to pay the price it demands. Fear will always ask you to stay small. Growth will always ask you to move forward anyway. One keeps you safe, the other changes your life. Comfort feels like protection. It wraps itself in routines, familiarity, and the promise that nothing will go wrong. That's why so many people cling to it. What they fail to see is that comfort is neutral only on the surface. Beneath that calm exterior, it quietly limits growth. Comfort doesn't just protect you from failure, it protects you from success as well. By avoiding discomfort, you also avoid the conditions required to achieve anything meaningful. Success demands exposure. Exposure to risk, judgment, pressure, and responsibility. Comfort avoids all of these. When you stay comfortable, you reduce your visibility. You avoid being seen, evaluated, or challenged. That might keep your ego intact, but it also keeps your progress small. You can't rise without being tested, and you can't be tested if you never leave what feels safe. Comfort also creates stagnation disguised as stability. Life feels manageable, predictable, and under control, but nothing new is being built. Skills plateau, ambition softens, you stop pushing yourself because there's no immediate need to. Days become repetitive and progress slows to a crawl. Over time, this stagnation becomes frustrating, even though nothing is technically wrong. The problem is that success requires voluntary discomfort. You must choose to do hard things before life forces them on you. Comfort removes urgency. It convinces you that there's plenty of time, that you can always start later. Later rarely comes. The longer you delay growth, the harder it becomes to restart momentum. Comfort also weakens resilience. When you avoid difficulty, you lose the ability to handle it. Small problems feel overwhelming because your tolerance for stress is low. You haven't trained yourself to stay calm under pressure or adapt quickly. Comfort doesn't prepare you for challenge. It makes challenge feel unbearable when it inevitably arrives. Another danger of comfort is that it shapes identity. When you repeatedly choose ease over effort, you start to see yourself as someone who avoids struggle. That identity influences future decisions. You stop considering bold moves because they feel not like you. Over time, you shrink your own possibilities. Comfort also distorts priorities. Immediate relief becomes more important than long-term fulfillment. You choose entertainment over effort, distraction over discipline, convenience over growth. These choices feel harmless in isolation, but compounded over time, they create a life that feels empty of progress. Many people believe that once they achieve success, life becomes comfortable. In reality, success increases responsibility and pressure. The difference is that successful people have trained themselves to function under discomfort. They don't seek ease, they seek effectiveness. Comfort didn't help them win, it would have slowed them down. Stepping out of comfort doesn't mean chaos or burnout, it means intentional challenge. It means choosing actions that stretch your skills and test your limits. Discomfort used correctly builds confidence. Each time you face something hard and survive, your belief in yourself grows. Comfort keeps you in control, but growth requires surrendering control to uncertainty. This is uncomfortable because it challenges your need for predictability. But uncertainty is where opportunity lies. Every meaningful advancement comes with unknowns. Avoiding them keeps you safe but stuck. The irony is that comfort promises happiness but often delivers boredom. Growth promises discomfort but delivers fulfillment. Humans are wired to progress. When progress stops, dissatisfaction grows even if life looks fine on the outside. Breaking free from comfort starts with awareness. You must recognize when ease is costing you more than it's giving you. If your life feels stable but uninspired, comfortable but stagnant, it may be time to disrupt it intentionally. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you choose discomfort over ease. Comfort will always be available. It's easy to return to. Opportunity is not. Opportunity requires action, risk, and exposure. The longer you stay comfortable, the harder it becomes to leave. But the moment you do, momentum begins. Avoiding discomfort feels safe today, but it silently blocks your future. If you want success, you must accept discomfort as part of the deal. Comfort can protect you, but only discomfort can transform you. Every major reward in life sits behind uncertainty, and that's not an accident. If rewards were guaranteed, everyone would have them. If outcomes were predictable, success would be common and unremarkable. Uncertainty is the gatekeeper. It exists to separate those who are willing to move without guarantees from those who need reassurance before every step. The moment you understand this, your relationship with uncertainty changes from something to fear into something to respect. Uncertainty feels uncomfortable because it removes control. You don't know how things will turn out. You don't know if your effort will pay off. You don't know if you'll succeed or fail. The human brain hates this. It wants certainty, safety, and predictability, but growth does not happen in predictable environments. Growth happens when you step into situations where you must adapt, learn, and respond in real time. Every meaningful decision carries uncertainty. Starting a business, changing careers, investing money, committing to a big goal, or even speaking up when it matters, all of these involve unknown outcomes. Waiting for certainty before acting is the same as deciding not to act at all. Certainty comes after commitment, not before it. Those who succeed understand that clarity is created through movement. Uncertainty forces responsibility. When there are no guarantees, you can't rely on external validation or instruction. You must think, decide, and act for yourself. This builds independence and confidence. People who avoid uncertainty often remain dependent on advice, approval, or permission. People who face uncertainty develop self-trust because they learn they can handle whatever happens next. Another reason uncertainty guards rewards is because it demands preparation without comfort. You have to prepare knowing that preparation itself doesn't guarantee success. You study, practice, plan, and improve without knowing if it will be enough. This builds discipline and humility. You focus on what you can control and release what you can't. That mindset is essential for long-term success. Uncertainty also exposes motivation. When the outcome is guaranteed, effort is easy. When the outcome is unclear, effort reveals commitment. Are you doing this because you truly want it or because it felt safe? Uncertainty answers that question quickly. It filters out those who are only interested when success feels assured. Many people assume uncertainty means chaos or recklessness. It doesn't. You can be strategic and still face uncertainty. In fact, the best strategies acknowledge uncertainty instead of pretending it doesn't exist. You plan for multiple outcomes. You stay flexible. You adjust quickly. This adaptability becomes a major advantage in a changing world. Avoiding uncertainty might feel responsible, but it often leads to stagnation. Life becomes predictable but limited. Opportunities pass by because they don't come with guarantees. You end up managing risk instead of pursuing reward. Over time, this creates a quiet dissatisfaction, a sense that life could have been more if you had been braver. Uncertainty is also where innovation lies. New ideas, new paths, and new breakthroughs don't come with instructions. They require experimentation and tolerance for failure. If you want results that don't exist yet, you must be willing to operate without a roadmap. Those who wait for certainty are always following, never leading. Facing uncertainty strengthens decision-making. You learn to gather information quickly, weigh options, and commit. You stop overthinking because you realize no amount of thinking removes uncertainty. Action becomes your teacher. Each decision, right or wrong, sharpens judgment. This experience compounds over time. Uncertainty also builds resilience. When outcomes aren't guaranteed, setbacks are inevitable. You learn how to recover, adjust, and continue. This resilience becomes a competitive advantage. While others panic or quit, when things don't go as planned, you remain steady. You've already accepted uncertainty as part of the process. The biggest rewards, freedom, wealth, mastery, influence, are hidden behind layers of uncertainty because they require growth to handle them. Without uncertainty, people would reach rewards they're not ready for. The struggle is part of the qualification process. If you look back at every meaningful moment in your life, you'll notice uncertainty was present. You didn't know how it would turn out, but you acted anyway. Those decisions shaped who you are. The same principle applies to the future. The life you want is not behind comfort or certainty. It's behind the decisions you're currently afraid to make. Uncertainty doesn't disappear as you grow. The scale changes. Bigger goals bring bigger unknowns. The difference is that you become more comfortable operating without guarantees. What once felt terrifying becomes normal. That's growth. If you want major rewards, you must accept uncertainty as part of the deal. Not someday, now. The question is not whether uncertainty will exist, but whether you're willing to move forward while it does. Most people say they want big results, but very few are willing to accept full responsibility for what happens when they take risks. Accountability is the price that comes with opportunity, and many avoid it without realizing it. When you take a risk, there's no one else to blame if it doesn't work. That reality scares people more than failure itself. It's easier to point fingers than to look in the mirror, but ownership is non-negotiable if you want meaningful rewards. The moment you decide to pursue something bigger, you step out of the safety of excuses. In comfort, excuses are accepted. In ambition, excuses are exposed. You can no longer blame circumstances, timing, the economy, or other people. Risk forces you to confront your choices honestly. That's why many people stay small. Not because they lack talent, but because they fear the weight of responsibility that comes with growth. Taking ownership means accepting that your current position is largely the result of your past decisions. That truth can sting, but it's also empowering. If your choices created where you are, then your future choices can change it. Accountability shifts you from victim to operator. You stop waiting for permission, help, or luck. You start asking better questions. What can I do differently? What skill do I need to build? What habit must I drop? People who avoid risk often hide behind potential. They say things like, I could have done more, or I would succeed if conditions were bare. Potential feels safe because it's never tested. Accountability destroys that illusion. Once you take the risk, your results speak louder than your intentions. That honesty accelerates growth because it removes self-deception. Ownership also sharpens focus. When the outcome is on you, distractions lose their appeal. You become more disciplined with your time and energy. You stop engaging in pointless debates and comparisons. You understand that no one is coming to save you, and that clarity simplifies decisions. What moves me forward? What doesn't? Everything else becomes noise. Another uncomfortable truth is that accountability includes failure. When things go wrong, you don't get to hide, but this is where strength is built. Instead of defending your ego, you analyze your actions. You separate what was within your control from what wasn't. You adjust. This process turns failure into data instead of drama. Over time, you fail less not because you avoid risk, but because you learn faster. Many people confuse accountability with self-blame. They are not the same. Blame is emotional and paralyzing. Accountability is practical and empowering. It's about asking, what's my responsibility in this, and what's my next move? This mindset keeps you moving forward even after setbacks. It prevents you from getting stuck in regret or resentment. Ownership also earns respect. People trust those who don't make excuses. Leaders emerge not because they're perfect, but because they take responsibility. When things go wrong, and credit others when things go right. In business, relationships, and life, accountability builds credibility. People want to follow those who stand by their decisions. Risk without accountability leads to chaos. You might take bold actions, but without ownership, you repeat the same mistakes. Accountability is what turns risk into progress. It forces reflection and refinement. Each attempt becomes smarter than the last. This is how long-term success is built through responsible risk-taking, not reckless behavior. Taking responsibility also removes fear of judgment. When you fully own your choices, other people's opinions lose power. You're no longer trying to please everyone because you've accepted that outcomes are yours to carry. This mental freedom allows you to act decisively. Indecision often comes from wanting approval without responsibility. Ownership eliminates that conflict. Accountability demands honesty about effort. You can't claim you want extraordinary results while giving ordinary effort. Risk exposes work ethic. When results don't match goals, accountability asks hard questions. Did I really do what was required? Or did I do what was comfortable? This self-audit is uncomfortable, but it's how standards rise. As you grow, accountability scales with you. Bigger goals bring bigger consequences. You learn to think long-term because short-term comfort can destroy long-term progress. This maturity separates professionals from amateurs. Amateurs want praise. Professionals want results. Ultimately, risk and reward are meaningless without ownership. Anyone can talk about dreams. Few are willing to carry the responsibility that makes those dreams real. The moment you accept full accountability for your actions, your progress accelerates, not because the path gets easier, but because excuses disappear. When excuses leave, clarity enters. And with clarity, real momentum begins. Risk is uncomfortable because it forces you to live with uncertainty, and the human mind hates not knowing how things will turn out. Most people don't fail because they are incapable. They quit because the emotional pressure of uncertainty becomes too heavy. When outcomes are not guaranteed, fear starts creating stories. What if it doesn't work? What if I lose everything? What if I look stupid? These thoughts don't protect you, they paralyze you. Learning to function while outcomes are unclear is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Growth never comes with full visibility. If you could see every step clearly, it wouldn't be a risk, and it wouldn't change you. Risk stretches your tolerance for discomfort. At first, uncertainty feels unbearable. You want reassurance, signs, and validation. Over time, if you don't quit, your nervous system adapts. Once felt terrifying becomes manageable. This is resilience being built in real time, not through motivation, but through exposure. People who avoid risk often say they are being smart or realistic, but in reality they are protecting their comfort, not their future. Playing it safe may reduce short-term anxiety, but it increases long-term regret. The pain of uncertainty fades. The pain of missed potential lingers. Risk teaches you how to move forward without emotional certainty, which is essential because life never provides guarantees. When you take risks consistently, you stop needing perfect conditions to act. You understand that clarity often comes after action, not before it. Waiting to feel ready is a trap, because readiness is a result of movement, not a prerequisite. Those who succeed are not braver by nature. They are simply more willing to act before confidence arrives. Confidence is built through surviving uncertainty, not avoiding it. Risk also forces you to develop internal stability instead of relying on external validation. When outcomes are unclear, praise disappears. There's no applause when you're in the middle of the struggle. You learn to self-regulate, to keep going without encouragement. This builds a quiet strength that doesn't depend on attention or approval. You start trusting your ability to adapt instead of needing certainty. Uncertainty sharpens problem solving. When there is no clear path, you're forced to think creatively. You test, adjust, fail, and recalibrate. Safe paths don't require growth because everything is already defined. Risky paths demand evolution. You become more resourceful because you have to. This adaptability becomes a long-term advantage that carries into every area of life. Many people underestimate how much resilience they already have because they've never tested it. Comfort hides capacity. Risk reveals it. You discover that you can handle more pressure, rejection, and stress than you imagine. Each time you face uncertainty and survive, your self-image changes. You stop seeing yourself as fragile and start seeing yourself as capable. That shift is powerful. There will be moments when uncertainty feels overwhelming and progress feels invisible. This is where most people quit. They mistake discomfort for failure. In reality, discomfort is often a sign that you are exactly where growth happens. Learning to stay present during these moments instead of escaping them is what separates those who break through from those who back off. It teaches emotional discipline. You learn not to overreact to temporary setbacks or small wins. When outcomes are unpredictable, emotional swings become dangerous. You start focusing on process instead of results. This emotional steadiness makes you more effective because you're not constantly derailed by fear or excitement. Living with uncertainty also changes how you view failure. Failure stops being a verdict and becomes part of the process. When risk is involved, failure is expected. This removes its power over you. You stop taking setbacks personally and start analyzing them objectively. That mindset allows you to recover faster and move forward stronger. Over time, uncertainty becomes familiar. Not comfortable, but familiar. And familiarity reduces fear. You don't need certainty to act anymore. You only need commitment. This is when momentum builds. While others wait for signs, you move. While others hesitate, you execute. This compounds into massive progress. Risk doesn't just lead to external rewards, it builds internal toughness. You become harder to shake, harder to stop, and harder to intimidate. When you know you can operate without guarantees, you stop fearing the unknown. And once fear of uncertainty is gone, very little can hold you back.